Since my last video, there have been remarkable developments in the Sandra Birchmore case. These new revelations demand a necessary follow-up video and allows me to delve deeper into some of the instances of corruption surrounding her case. If you're not yet acquainted with Sandra's heartbreaking story and the systemic failures that led to her tragic fate, I encourage you to watch my initial video. You'll find the link conveniently located in the description and at the end of this video. If you haven't heard about the tragic case of Sandra Birchmore, let me provide a brief overview. Sandra, a 23-year-old resident of Canton, Massachusetts, met an untimely death, with her body being discovered on February 4, 2021, in her apartment. A scarf was tightly wound around her neck, secured to the closet door. She was 3 months pregnant, and the alleged father of her unborn child was a Stoughton police officer named Matthew Farewell, the very last person to see her alive. Their relationship had begun when Sandra was just 13 years old, and it unfolded against the backdrop of the Stoughton Explorers program, a platform for teens interested in law enforcement. Tragically, Sandra's interactions with multiple police officers during her time in the program took a dark turn, involving grooming and inappropriate relationships. Despite these troubling circumstances, authorities ruled her death a suicide. Since my last video, a bombshell revelation has reverberated throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and beyond. In June 2024, Dr. Michael Baden, an esteemed pathologist and former chief medical examiner from New York City, weighed in on Sandra's case. His professional opinion unequivocally labeled her death a homicide. Hired by Sandra's estate to investigate, Dr. Baden meticulously examined the evidence. His name might ring a bell. He's provided expert opinions in high-profile cases involving President John F. Kennedy, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., O.J. Simpson, Jeffrey Epstein, Shannon Gilbert, and George Floyd. Additionally, he's identified the remains of Tsar Nicholas II of Russia and Nazi Dr. Joseph Mengele. In a letter dated June 18, 2024, addressed to the Birchmore estate, Dr. Baden pointed to crucial factors. Sandra's right hyoid bone, a small neck bone, was fractured, an injury rarely associated with suicidal hanging, but often seen in half of homicidal strangulations of women. Autopsy photos revealed a ligature entangled in Sandra's hair, indicative of resistance during homicidal strangulation. Dr. Baden also believed the ligature being tied to the doorknob was a deliberate attempt to create the appearance of a suicidal hanging. Baden also raised a critical question. Did state investigators examine the samples collected from the 23-year-old woman's clothing and body? According to Baden, the samples taken from her clothes, biological material for a sexual assault kit, and preserved fetal tissue remained untested. This included DNA analysis to determine the father's identity. Unsurprisingly, Matthew Farewell declined to provide a DNA sample. Despite this, Baden remains hopeful that the fetal tissue could still undergo examination. Birchmore's estate is suing 3 former Stoughton police officers, along with the town of Stoughton, for wrongful death in a complaint that accuses them of participating in a near-decade-long scheme of grooming and repeated assaults, which ultimately culminated in her death. Joshua Heel, a 4th individual, was dismissed from the civil suit. After Dr. Baden's statement, Stoughton Police Chief Donna McNamara issued her own response. She emphasized, "I need to be clear that our police department has no jurisdiction over the investigation of Sandra's death, which occurred in a different community. However, I will reiterate that the Stoughton Police Department has assisted and continues to cooperate with other law enforcement agencies. Sandra received not so much as a sliver of justice during her life, and we will not cease in our efforts to ensure our duty to administer justice, and she is not forgotten in the aftermath of her death." McNamara also added that she was profoundly disturbed and troubled when she read the details of Baden's report. She ended her statement with, quote, "The only mantra of good cops must be, never again, and never, ever on my watch. In March 2024, it was revealed that the Massachusetts Attorney General's office had taken over the investigation into Sandra's death during the fall of 2023 from the Norfolk District Attorney's Office and its investigators. At a hearing in early July 2024 in the civil suit filed by Sandra's estate, the Attorney General's lawyer confirmed that the investigation was ongoing and very active. Another significant development also unfolded in March 2024. The FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office launched their own probe into the death of Sandra Birchmore. The Boston Globe reported that the FBI began interviewing individuals close to Sandra. Norfolk District Attorney Michael Morrissey responded to the FBI inquiries with a statement. "If there is a federal avenue for accountability in this matter, we hope it is vigorously pursued." Interestingly, this statement implies that Morrissey and his office were unaware of the federal investigation until its public announcement. Speculation abounds that the district attorney's office itself is now under scrutiny as part of a corruption inquiry. Adding to the intrigue, the office is also facing a corruption probe related to the mishandling of the investigation and subsequent indictments against Karen Reed. Reed was recently on trial for the murder of Boston police officer John O'Keefe, a trial that ended in a mistrial. Even the mistrial itself is shrouded in suspicion. The Norfolk District Attorney's Office has faced other controversies that seem to include cover-ups and corruption, including the shooting of Justin Root, the suspicious death of Craig Casey, the alleged lack of charges against William O'Connell, the alleged murder of Kevin Clapp's mother not being prosecuted, and I am sure there are countless others I'm not aware of. While I can't include all of these stories in one short video, I encourage others to do their own research to bring light to these cases. I hope some of them are included in the ongoing federal probe, and that whatever incestuous corruption is going on soon gets put to an end. Without delving too deeply into the Karen Reed case, I'll highlight some of the same investigators who were involved in Sandra's death investigation and also played significant roles in the Reed case. In my previous video, I mentioned Trooper Nicholas Guarino, the officer responsible for extracting data from Matthew Farwell's phone. Matthew, who was allegedly the father of Sandra's unborn child and the last person to see her alive, had his phone scrutinized by Guarino. Interestingly, Guarino was also the same officer who extracted data from Jen McCabe's phone during the John O'Keefe murder investigation. In both cases, he encountered difficulties retrieving deleted data. However, during the trial, it came to light that the FBI managed to retrieve McCabe's data without significant obstacles. Hopefully, federal investigators will achieve similar success with Farwell's phone, assuming they haven't already done so. State Police Detective Lieutenant John Fanning, a key investigator in Sandra's case, clarified that they were not actively investigating Matthew Farwell for Sandra's death or statutory rape. However, he said they remain open to considering potential larceny charges due to Farwell's involvement in sexual affairs with Sandra while on duty. During the Reed trial, we learned disturbing details that Fanning was part of a group text chain with Trooper Michael Proctor, who led the investigation into John O'Keefe's murder. Proctor's conduct in these group texts raised serious concerns about inappropriate conduct, and he has since been put on leave of duty over them. He told the group he sought nude photos of Karen Reed when he took custody of her phone, made disgusting remarks about her health, and even suggested that he wished she would take her own life. While the extent of Fanning's response to these texts remains unclear, it is evident that he did not report them to higher authorities. Additionally, there are allegations that Fanning oversaw the jury in the Karen Reed trial. Trooper Matthew Dunn, another key investigator in Sandra's death, reported that when he discovered Sandra's body in her bedroom, there were no signs of physical abuse, no bruising, swelling, external trauma, or marks, indicating a struggle. Dunn also played a role in the Reed investigation, where it appears he was part of the chain of custody for crucial missing CCTV footage in the O'Keefe murder investigation. Footage that could have potentially exonerated Karen Reed. Unfortunately, it remains absent. Dunn's record is not without controversy. In a separate incident, a civil suit alleged that he and another officer violently threw a man to the ground without just cause. Following the incident, Dunn charged the man with 2 minor offenses, but those charges were ultimately dismissed in court the next day. Canton Police Lieutenant, then Sergeant Michael Lank, was among the first officers to arrive at Sandra's apartment on the day she was discovered deceased. Although he reviewed the CCTV footage for her apartment, he never once mentioned that Matthew Farewell was seen entering and exiting the building. Interestingly, Lank, a close friend of the Alberts, was specifically called in to respond to the discovery of John O'Keefe's body at 34 Fairview, even though he wasn't on duty. Notably, his friend Brian Albert was the homeowner of that residence. Despite the Canton police being removed from the O'Keefe case due to conflicting interests, Lank was later summoned to amend Jen McCabe's earlier statement about the discovery of John's body. It's worth noting that Lank has faced several complaints during his tenure at the Canton Police Department, yet he has been promoted twice. When Lank arrived at Sandra's apartment, Detective Kevin Albert accompanied him. Kevin, who is the brother of 34 Fairview's homeowner, Brian Albert, has recently been placed on leave from the Canton Police Department due to an incident disclosed in court during the Karen Reed trial. Specifically, Kevin was involved in a cold case with Trooper Michael Proctor. Afterward, he got drunk and lost his badge and gun, which seemingly remained in Trooper Proctor's police cruiser the following day. There are not a lot of updated details publicly available on the officers accused in inappropriate relationships with Sandra. However, the State Peace Officers Standards and Training Commission approved an agreement with Matthew Farewell that prohibits him from working in law enforcement in Massachusetts and adds his name to a national database of sanctioned officers. The agency also accused him of lying to state police troopers about the extent of his interactions with Sandra. The commission also accused Matthew Farewell, along with his brother William, of lying about the extent of their relationships with Birchmore in interviews with state police troopers. Under the agreement, Matthew Farewell didn't admit to any wrongdoing. William Farewell, on the other hand, is awaiting his fate with the commission. They have not yet recertified him, and ongoing efforts persist to decertify him. News reports indicate he has relocated to New Mexico after being dismissed by his employer, the Transportation Security Administration, having worked there after leaving the Stoughton Police Department. It also came out that beyond having sexual relations with Sandra, he allegedly encouraged her to record intimate encounters with others and requested videos. Notably, one photo she sent to William appears to depict the male genitalia of a fellow Stoughton officer. Robert Devine is also awaiting whether or not he will be decertified as a police officer. As of this video, no charges have been brought against any of the officers. With the State Attorney General's office conducting an investigation, the FBI initiating what appears to be a corruption probe, and a civil suit by Sandra's family currently ongoing, it seems more hopeful that we may one day get justice for Sandra Birchmore. Links in the description offer avenues for those wishing to delve deeper or get involved in the cause. Sandra was a beautiful young woman who deserves justice.